Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. It is January 17th, 2020. It's cold outside. And find your tribe and you can change your life, Dan. Did you know that?
Yes.
Stop making disgusting sounds into the mic.
Okay.
I'm here with my co-host, Dan Robin. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, John?
Wow. Dimitri, that's the first time he's ever asked me that. Took us 70 episodes.
I thought you were going to say 10 years.
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I got off track during the holidays, so I've been eating things I probably shouldn't be eating, drinking a little too much alcohol on occasion, gained a little bit of weight, but I'm trying to get back on
Pull it
on
back
track.
in. That's one of the toughest things, right? People
Pull it
get
back
off
in.
track, and then they're gone for a year. Saying, how do you pull yourself back in?
That was one of the themes of
Yeah.
the last podcast episode.
We never even talked about it a lot. One thing is, first of all, you and I feeling responsible to each other by reporting in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That definitely helps. So I send, Dimitri, I send Dan my weight almost every morning. And it helps because I don't want
Feel
to.
embarrassed.
Yeah, I don't want to send you a really bad number.
Yeah.
So, and then when I do send you a bad number, yeah, I get a little bit of stress response and I have a better day.
Because I think also people that really go off the rails, they just have none. They put, at least for me, whenever I went off the rails, you're just like, I'm not thinking about this anymore. You know what I mean? You're just like, I don't want to think about diet or weight or working out or any of that.
You just
Just
go,
put it out of your mind.
screw it.
Yeah.
And
Screw
then
it.
you're in big trouble.
Yeah,
then,
but
right?
you can do that for 6 months or a year, or some
decades.
people a lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how
if
do
you
you get
think-
back on the tracks?
Well, the theme of the podcast is find your tribe, change your life. So I was thinking about this just the other day. In a way, we can help design our environment. So your environment is your physical environment, but it's also your social environment. That's what the whole tribe is.
Yeah.
So you're part of my tribe. I send you this information. I weigh 182.4 pounds, and I'm usually when I'm at training weight 178. So now I know I'm almost 4.5 pounds over, and I want to improve this number next time. So because I have respect for you, that helps me stay on track.
Yeah. I was thinking, though, here's a downside to it, particularly, I would say, particularly an MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, is that people are, and I think we've touched on this, people in that gym are very mentally tough and fit and strong. And you don't think about that, but the people that go to a gym like that are not average people, generally speaking.
Okay.
So you have good athletes and they're strong and fit. And so for me, you can come in if you're in graduate school, you're like, oh, I'm really fit, strong, and athletic. You go to that gym and you're like, oh, you're getting crushed by people and other people are picking it up faster. And there's elite athletes in the gym.
So you get inaccurate information about where you
you start
where you
feeling
are.
like you could come into the gym going, I'm pretty strong. And then you're like, oh, I'm not so, you go with other people and you're like, oh, I'm not strong.
Dan, didn't you do that? Like the first two people you rolled with
Yeah.
were like two of the physically
In
strongest people I know.
Yeah. And I didn't know. Yeah, when I first started jiu-jitsu, a lot of people out there listening might know Jack. And this was prime Jack of
Jack Ellis, yeah.
Jack Ellis of
Big Jack.
yeah, of 12 years ago or whenever it was. And he was and I came in as a white belt.
12 years ago.
Or
It's
whenever,
15 years
or 15 years ago.
ago.
Yeah. And I came in,
20
I was
No, 16 years ago.
yes, 16 years ago. And so Jack was just he's still a monster, but he was really, really a monster then. And I came in, he was one of the first guys that rolled.
You know how
as a
old he
white
was
belt.
then? I know this. He was 51 years old then because he's 67 now. So when he was 51, he was still a force, definitely. He has wrists like people's ankles.
I know that's upsetting to a lot of us who are around that age now who are like, okay, that goes fast, right? You're like,
Goes
oh,
fast.
look how much older Jack is. You're like, nah, snap your fingers and you're the same age.
Yeah.
But he was so strong. And I came in as a white belt and picked the first random person. It was open mat at up in Watertown. And it was Jack Ellis.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm so weak. I was like, is everyone so strong? And then I went from him to The guy, I don't remember his name. You'd know who he was.
Aaron MacKinnon, I think you told me.
Yeah, yeah.
He was
And
like
I think,
a pipe fitter, plumber.
and he was a totally different thing, like smaller, but like his grip was so strong, and he
very strong.
and he'd lock
guy.
his legs, and I couldn't break the lock from that, and I was just like, I'm so weak.
You feel like a child.
Yeah, I was just like, why am I so weak?
Mm.
You know, and some version of that I think hits a lot of people, right? Even in your, you know, then we used to talk about the old days in Dedham at your gym, in the noon class, when it was John and you and Ken and Albert, and I'm leaving people out, but Javi showed up, and Louie and Leo, and you know, it's just like everyone is so strong.
Albert was freakishly strong too, man. Wow.
Yeah, and it was just like you'd show up and be like, I think I'm pretty fit, and then suddenly be like, what is going on? You know, just feeling. But you know, people should know it's not an average group. It's not an average. It's not group, your neighborhood barbecue.
But that will raise your set point, right? That's the point of it. So you change your social environment, and you're going to change what you deem as your average, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm having the opposite now. I'm working at a gym where everyone's like 70 to 80 years old.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like everyone's just
feel
sort
like
of
a stud.
Just today, literally.
The old ladies catcall you as you walk by.
I'm like, stop it. Stop it, Estelle. But like just today, like an hour ago, I was on the treadmill, and some guy's like, how far'd you go? First of all, though, I was like, just a couple of miles. And he was like, oh. I'm like, he was disappointed. Like, this old man was like, oh. I'm like, well, you know, sometimes they go farther. And he was like, I thought you were going to get issued a speeding ticket, how fast you were running. I was like, it wasn't that fast. You know what I mean? But like at the gym where everyone's 70, I'm like just the stud, like outrunning everyone on the treadmills, outlifting everyone in the weights.
So you're doing basically the opposite of what I'm advocating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you're hanging out with less fit people,
exactly,
just to feel good about yourself.
Exactly. It's not my goal, but it's working out that way. It's working out well. I like it.
Dan, you've always been an outlier. Right, Dimitri? This is unbelievable. You're
doing
the
anything,
opposite of
nothing
the
by the books.
Yeah, and it all works for you.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And even today, so in the weight room, there was like a young fit guy, but he called me over to spot him on the bench. He like picked me out as like, hey, can you?
Well, he's not going to have.
Like he went into the other room. Yeah, exactly. I was like the only other. So yeah, in that gym, you know, in a normal gym, I won't be the strong or fit or whatever. But in that gym, I'm just like, you know, the stud. So there's the other way too, the other side of it.
That's the other side of it for sure.
But I think for people's mental well-being, they should understand that people are good in these gyms and in like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym. And there's that like a filter that the people who are very, very bad filter out. So you end up after a few years of people that, in generally speaking, that lean toward naturally good at it and naturally talented and naturally dedicated and strong and fit and all those things.
Maybe, but I think, I think you're going to get some people who have or high in conscientiousness where they can just persevere with something and stick with it, because it's still very technical jiu-jitsu. So I don't want people to get the idea that you have to be a natural athlete to do it. I think it's
not at all.
Not at all. Yeah. But you were saying the last episode that you were saying maybe people shouldn't be so emotional when they set their goals, like, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. Jiu-jitsu is life. And then when they fail at it, they might wash out or something.
Right.
And when I was listening to the episode again, it occurred to me that might be more a function of their personality. So some people who are high neurotic, you know, they're high emotionally variable, then they're going to have those big swings where they're like, I want to do this every day for the rest of my life. And then, you know, a week later, they're like, I never want to do this again. So it's not even so much how they're framing their goals. It's just their innate personality.
But I also think people are fed that advice. You know, they're fed no pain, no gain. They're fed advice that's along those lines.
Right.
You don't hear.
That's right. You coined the phrase. What was it? No pain, gain.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the same rhythm.
Because I've heard the opposite, where like, so people go, I'm not a no pain, no gain guy. So I've heard no pain, no pain. But that's like a lazy, you know what I mean?
I don't know what that means. Yeah.
It means like no pain, no pain. So I'm not going to go work out. Like, I'm not going to do it because no pain, no pain.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
it's sort of a joke, but it's sort of true. But I'm saying you don't need to do that either. I've never heard anyone say no pain, gain.
I totally agree. I think I've heard of this concept called the minimally effective dose. So if you think about your system and you need to stress your system to get the system to respond to it. So one way to approach it is to stress it in a minimal amount in order to get a response. So
Right.
I sort of do that when I do my off the mat training now. I don't do a lot of it. Once a week maybe, Dan, I'll do some things, but I don't do that nearly as hard as I used to. And I feel like it works. So I get an effect from that.
I mean, in a way, I'm also sort of, I don't know if the word's hit. Like, I work out hard when I work out. Like, it hurts when I work out. Like I've said, I'm on the treadmill. I've said on this podcast, I'm not reading a book.
Right.
I'm suffering.
Yeah.
But
You're not watching TV?
no, not. Yeah, I can't even. You know what I mean? I couldn't. People are reading magazines, and I'm like, I can't. And I'm sitting there. People next to me reading a magazine, and I'm like, I'm not sure I can make it. I'm staring at the the thing ticking by, going, I might have to turn this off. I can't bear the pain. So I'm pushing a lot harder than some other people. As a quick aside, yes, that also happened to me today, where there's like, I'm sure you've heard of this, but like 12 treadmills, and I'm on one, and someone comes up next to me and starts, and I fill with hatred for them. Am I overreacting? I'm like, I hate them.
Is that like when you're at there's a row of urinals?
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
guy comes right up next to you?
Yeah, same thing. You're like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, I hate him. You're just
Give
like,
me some space here, man.
just
Yeah.
like the urinal
So there's
thing.
12 empty treadmills.
Yeah,
And you're on number 3, and they come up on number 4.
exactly.
Yeah.
That just happened to me today, right next to me, and then starts talking. It's like,
So I was talking to you.
yeah, so what sort of workout do you? And I'm like, could you stop talking to me? Like, I'm not here to socialize. I'm
very
here to run
funny.
on this treadmill.
That's
I've got
very funny.
headphones on. I'm like taking the headphones off. Like, can I help you? I'm running on a treadmill. I'm exhausted. What are you doing? Like, I'm just not
You
there.
got headphones on.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not there to. I'm like, what?
Well,
what do
you
you
must have been
want?
giving some signs that you're open to.
I know. I should look meaner or something. I do look pretty unpleasant usually when
With
I'm
the
by
headphones
myself.
on?
Like,
Yeah.
I was
Can
just
see
like,
that.
what? Actually, today also. This is all today. I didn't even think anything happened in the gym today, but suddenly they're all coming up. Like, I felt really bad because the same thing. I had the headphones on.
Yeah.
There was someone so I'm on the treadmill, like up and to my left on one of those stationary bikes, and she has a walker.
Okay.
This is the kind of people at my gym. Like, I have like a walker. This is how I compete against. I can see her on this, and I'm
So
like,
you're saying you're basically the alpha.
yeah,
at this
the woman.
place.
In fact, I can look at like the woman with the walk and be like, I am crushing her, crushing. Like, oh my god, she's nowhere near my output. So like, so her walker she put it like behind her stationary bike, and she was like struggling to get it loose. But again, I'm sort of telling you now like what happened, but at the time it was sort of at the fringe of my vision, and I looked over, and she was I thought she might have been going to get something from her bag back there, so I couldn't tell what was happening. And then I think with my headphones on, I think she made eye contact and might have said something to me. And I'm like, I think in retrospect, she was like, help, I can't get my walker out. But I had the headphones on, and I'm like kind of stone-faced looking at her, like, because I also don't want to respond if she's not talking to me. And I'm like, so I just keep running and like looking at her with a dead, like stone-faced expression. And then like one of the employees comes like running out and like helps her with the walker. And I like suddenly realize, I'm like, I think she was asking me for help. Like, I think she was like, can you help me? I'm stuck. I'm like,
She was looking at you saying, you're standing on my oxygen tube. And
yeah, it was just like, I think it was literally like, I'm someone disabled and I'm stuck and I can't get my walker. Can you help? And I had my headphones on and just was like looking at her with a blank expression. She must be like, what a psychopath. You know what I mean? Like she just sort of walked out, gave me a look, and I'm like, and I'm still running and I'm exhausted. So I didn't want to, I'm not going to stop the treadmill and be like, oh, I apologize. Like I didn't realize what was happening. she just kind of went away on the
She's
walker
okay,
looking
though.
at me
It's not like she fell or anything.
no,
Yeah.
she's okay. But I'm sure
she was
now,
inconvenienced. She had to wait a moment.
if she sees me again, she's going to be like, from her perspective, she like turned around like, help, I'm stuck. I can't get my walker. And I like didn't respond. I just
you're
stared
a
at
heartless
her.
monster.
I just stared at her with like no change of expression at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be my developing reputation, especially when the guy standing next to me at the treadmill makes conversation. And I'm like, what do you want? Get
I have
away
a
from
feeling
me.
you're going to go in there one day and they're going to have a petition to have you removed.
Actually, it has crossed my mind that it could happen. Like, yeah, I'm not there to chat is the other thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not like, everyone's like, hey, James, you know, and like with each other. And I'm like,
I'm sure.
I'm not, I get in a whole mindset of like a stone face. Like I'm not here to chat or to talk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're like at a gym or, you know,
I haven't been to a gym in a long time. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you can be like that. You know,
I'm pretty much like that anyway.
Yeah. Although,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Even at your own gym.
Yeah.
Kind of
everywhere. Actually, Tin Nguyen said to me, "Oh, I listened to your podcast." He's like, "You're like you have a different personality." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're charismatic." Like, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm freaking charismatic all the time, Tin. Okay.
You're very different. You're likable. It's night and day. I've actually heard some version of that. Like it was like, it's good to listen to you get to see another side of John. Like, you know.
Well, I think it's probably because most of our interactions are on just teaching them jiu-jitsu, and maybe we're not chatting about things so much. But
yeah,
I don't feel any different. I don't feel like I'm putting on a persona, and we
you seem
talk
the
about
same to
all
me.
we talk about all the same ideas.
But if you're teaching a class, you can't be like
it's technical. You got to get
like I read of this book, and you got to just.
Well, I try to respect people's time too, Dan, as a teacher. So I want to be as effective and as efficient as possible. I don't want to ramble on. That's the worst thing when you go to a physical class like jiu-jitsu or kickboxing and the instructor just starts holding court and rambling on without making effective points. That is just the friggin' worst, I think. You're standing there all cold waiting for it.
You want to get on with the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I value people's time, and I have my classes scheduled pretty tightly, so there isn't a lot of wiggle room.
Right, it makes sense. And then that's also why on the podcast sometimes people expect you to talk more about technical aspects of jiu-jitsu.
Maybe. Yeah.
And it's, from what I understand, your perspective is I'll come to class or ask me about that in class, and I'll talk about it there.
I think so. I love to talk about principles and concepts. I think principles have more value than specific techniques anyways, because you can sort of apply them in unique situations and novel situations. You can understand techniques better. And this podcast, we talk about ideas and principles and concepts. Those are
right. But then the specifics of
value.
the jiu-jitsu specifics.
Yeah, come in and do it.
But it's also better because then you can do it. You know, it's hard to on a microphone say you need to get the heel at the
totally agree.
This part of your forearm, right? Like
it's all about the doing at the end of the day, anyways. So if you're learning something, if you don't apply it, practice it, and do it, you're going to forget it anyway. So there's no value to it unless you're applying it.
Right.
Yeah.
We've done jiu-jitsu on this podcast, though, one time where when Doomsday Howard.
Oh, John Howard choked you out.
Guillotined me.
Yeah.
Right? So
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He had a special version of it. Yeah.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he wanted to try his guillotine.
We did do that. Yeah.
Other than that, though, mostly ideas and principles here.
I think so. But I think it'll make your jiu-jitsu better if you apply the ideas that we're talking about, no doubt. Make any part of your life better.
A lot of it's mental too. Even like the beginning part of this podcast talking about when we're saying how to approach mentally. The hardest part of jiu-jitsu, right, is staying with it, and that's all mental. I mean, every now and then, of all the people that stop doing jiu-jitsu, I'd imagine it's a very small percentage that are physically stopped. They're like, I have to. My neck is broken, or like my.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's all mental. So. That's a side of the game a lot of people need to work on.
So I probably talked about this before, that the blue belt, why people stop after blue belt. Did I talk about that on the
Go
podcast?
ahead.
So I think this is fairly accurate, Dan. So I imagine some guy starts training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he loves it, and he's getting a lot from it, and he's growing and improving in his Jiu-Jitsu, and he goes to a cookout with some friends, and somebody says, "Hey, Dave, you're doing Jiu-Jitsu?" Yeah. Cool. What belt are you? And when they're a white belt,
Like, so am I, right?
it probably takes 24 months, I think, to get a blue belt, to get out of the white belt area, and you get stripes and all of that. So for the first 2 years, they're a white belt, and the general public doesn't understand that. That's like saying, you're a complete
I
beginner,
could have
just
one
like
tomorrow.
me.
I could have one tomorrow, yeah.
And it carries no value, no weight. But as soon as they get the blue belt, and then they're at that cookout, and somebody goes, "Oh, what belt are you?" And they go, "I'm a blue belt." And now the general public, they have no idea what the value of a blue belt is even. They think that might be 1 month away from black belt.
Right.
So they're like, "Oh, wow, Dave's a blue belt." And they get all excited about it. So then Dave was like, "Well, I could carry on for another 2 or 3 years to get a purple belt or
Which
whatever
sounds
the hell
the
it
same
is.
to everyone as blue belt.
Or I can just tell everyone for the rest of my life I'm a blue belt. And I saved myself all that effort. And I think that's what happens. That's when we lose people. Everybody's making a cost-benefit analysis all the time, either consciously or unconsciously. So at some level, they're like, yeah, there's not enough benefit. I'm not going to get enough esteem from other people to make all the effort it's going to take to get to purple. So screw it. I'm out.
But it's also, right. There's also this thing of, at first the gains are so fast. You know what I mean? Like from white belt, you get better so fast that it's really exciting and fun. Like you're learning and learning and learning so fast. And it just makes sense that as time goes on, it's going to be more subtle. You're going to have more subtle tweaks.
think so.
And you don't see the leaps and
And
bounds.
jiu-jitsu against an untrained athlete is so much more effective than jiu-jitsu against a jiu-jitsu player. Like
Right.
you have to develop another level of jiu-jitsu to compete
Right.
against other jiu-jitsu players. So when you're 6 months in as a white belt and you go against somebody who has no training at all, usually you can dominate the person, all else being equal. So it feels like a superpower.
Yeah.
But then when you're going with the other jiu-jitsu guys, it gets much harder.
And the other thing that happens is, I used to always warn, I'm sure we've all warned people and heard about this, but that higher belts start trying harder against you.
Yeah.
So you start feeling like, why am I never getting better? Because
You
know
feel
what I
like
mean?
you're losing ground.
And I've been on
maybe.
both sides of it,
Yeah.
where you're just suddenly like, wait, this guy's no joke now. So then you turn it up, and they're like, I got so much better. I thought I almost was beating you before, and now I thought I beat you, and now I'm still losing to you. Why is that happening? And it's like, because you turned it up. You're like, I can't mess around. I'm not letting you get on top of me anymore. I'm not letting you take my back anymore because you're better.
Dan, I had that exact experience when I opened my academy. I had this guy, Peter Sachs, and he would show up on Friday nights, and sometimes it would literally just be him and me.
Because the academy was just opening.
Because the academy was brand new. And so we would just roll for the last half hour of the class. And of course, he was, I think he was a white belt at the time. He was a big, strong, durable guy. But I would just go at a good pace where he could learn a little bit, go back and forth. Then he started getting better. And then I think he eventually got his blue belt. So just like you said, I started to make it a little bit harder for him. And he looked up at me and he said, "Wait a minute. What did he say?" He goes, I feel like I'm getting worse unless you weren't trying your hardest before. Like it had just dawned on him that I wasn't giving him 100% effort before, which was just so silly. You know what I mean? It's really funny. I got a kick out
the
of it.
realization broke, right?
Yeah. So let's get back on track.
Right.
So we're talking about this tribe. So if you go into a jiu-jitsu academy, like you're saying, you got some people that are pretty rugged physically and mentally, probably pretty high conscientiousness,
And
pretty health-oriented.
One addendum to that, one addition is that most academies I've ever seen, people are pretty humble about it. So it's not like everyone's looking, you know what I mean? It doesn't look like a Hell's Angels gang, or you know what I mean? It's sort of like, people look tough enough, but
Oh, right.
You're not realizing how rugged the group is, because people are laughing, talking. They're from all walks of life, and they're just sort of like.
Most places have a great culture, really
Yeah.
good people helping each other.
So you feel like this is just an average group, but it's not.
I think it's hard to be too arrogant in jiu-jitsu because there's always somebody that's better than you. I don't know who's out there. Maybe Gordon Ryan for no-gi. I mean, where they can just beat everybody. I have no idea what that must feel like, but yeah. So everyone's pretty grounded in reality, and I think just joining a social group like that, you got to get healthier.
And
fitter.
even if you're really good and not losing to many people at all, like you actually, you came up losing a lot.
Oh, right.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even if, you know what I mean, there's no such
Yeah.
thing. I used to be amazed. Do you remember this in some of the old episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, the TV show?
Okay.
You'd see some guys that were from, non-typical gyms and non-typical places, and they'd be like, I've never been tapped. And they'd say things like that, and it would be like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Where are you training?
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Right.
It is impossible.
Right.
You could be, I don't know who you want to name, a lineman on the Patriots or a world-class athlete or someone from the Olympics. You'll get tapped when you start jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like,
unless you're some real extremely large freakish outlier. Yeah.
If you're, maybe a lineman on the Patriots could, but I bet someone could catch him.
Shaq or somebody, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
They have a video you could see online of Shaq no-gi grappling with Forrest Griffin. It's pretty
really?
cool. Yeah. Shaq is just such a big guy. He makes Forrest.
Forrest must look tiny. Right?
Yeah, I think Forrest is probably like 6'3", 230.
Well, Forrest, I've met Forrest in person a few times, and he's
a big guy, right?
Yeah, surprisingly huge.
Yeah.
Back in the day, he was one of the people that really surprised me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, he's big.
Yeah, he looked tiny, but he did pretty good. I forget the result of it. And Shaq did pretty good too, actually. Yeah.
As far as trying hard.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. I think he was trying not to get killed somehow because Shaq is so big,
Yeah, but even that, I mean, who thinks what normal person could grapple with Shaq? You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive that the skills work. I mean, I don't know what Shaq weighs now, but he looks gigantic. What do you think, 400 pounds?
Yeah, it's got to be something like
yeah.
that.
So that's the social environment you can engineer. And then I think even if you have somebody in your life, like a wife or a significant other, if the healthier they eat, that probably influences you as well, right? You're going to eat healthier then too. Like my son eats very healthy, so that puts an influence on me just because I tend to eat with him. And then
because what's in the house?
Well, that's the physical environment. So I'm just talking about the social environment. So we're engineering the social environment to help us, support us in what we want to do. And then, then the physical environment. So we don't have that much food. We don't have any really bad food in the house. One of my treat stand is dark chocolate. So for a while I would go to Whole Foods and I would get like a 75 dark chocolate, and I think I would get an 80 or maybe an 85.
What's 70, 75?
That's 80? Supposedly the percentage of cocoa in it or something. Cacao. I don't know what the hell it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when you get to 85, you're not eating that whole bar. Like it's pretty not sweet and buttery, but you get the chocolate kind of impact.
It's a good idea. Just buy a snack like that you just can't eat that much.
It's physically not possible. But they don't have that there anymore. So the highest number they realize that people aren't eating this fast enough and buying it fast enough. So the highest number they have now is 70. So I got a couple 70 bars. I think I ate both of these gigantic bars in one night. It's so much easier to eat that I just blasted through it. But other than that, the house is pretty clean. We don't have any bread. We don't have any pasta. We don't have any, like your father-in-law. Basically, he could come to my house and eat, and he would be fine.
But I used to also have that. I used to say I did the opposite. Like, again, me not doing things correctly. But I would just leave this crap in my house, cookies and whatever else, and just test my willpower. I'd just be like, I'm not touching it. And I'm pretty good at it, but it's not perfect. Like, I've had occasionally a day or two where since it's there, like I've been eating badly all weekend. And
Dan, I don't know how the hell you do it. Dimitri, he's unbelievable. He can have triple stuffed Oreos in his house, all this stuff. I don't know how you do it. You are a freakish outlier for sure.
Is that all I do is I'm like, look, Monday through Thursday, I'm not going to touch this stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would say 99% of people cannot do that.
Really?
What do you think, Dimitri? Yeah, he agrees. Yeah, you can't. I mean, I was listening to, I quote this podcast all the time, Beat Your Genes podcast with Dr. Doug Lisle and Professor Jen Howk is on there. And last week they were talking about, I think they're talking about addiction and bad habits. And I think they used the phrase channel factors. Does that make, have you ever heard that in psychology? I think that's what they called them. Basically what they're saying is, if you don't want to smoke cigarettes, just make it hard for yourself to smoke cigarettes. Don't hang out with people who smoke. Don't go places where everyone's smoking. Yeah. Don't. So they had, Dr. Jen Howk was counseling some woman, I think, who would go to this convenience store and buy junk food. So they had them go there, and the woman gave the owner of the store her picture and say, don't allow me in the store. So then she couldn't go in the store. That's a channel factor, I guess. So now you're engineering the environment a little bit. Like you can do that at casinos. You can go to casinos and put your name on a list.
You say, don't let me in.
Don't let me in. But these things are effective at curbing bad habits and breaking it, or I don't know,
good.
dealing with addiction.
This is the problem I have. Like, if it works, it works. It sounds like it works.
Yeah.
But the problem I have is you're never beating it mentally. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, because then what if you end up in a casino? You'll go haywire, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't.
Well, they
beat
would
it
say,
mentally.
I think the theory is, Dan, that by creating these channel factors to get you out of the grips of it, you're way better off. And that it's not weakening you. It's not making you worse. It's actually making you stronger, because there's neural circuits that when you're participating in the addiction or bad habit, or whatever you want to call it, are only getting stronger. So if you can pull yourself away from it, you do have a chance, I think, through some sort of neuroplasticity to recover a little bit and actually get stronger. So I think that's the theory. And that sounds plausible to me. I get what you're saying. You have this iron will that you're strengthening all the time.
It doesn't seem that iron. Like I said, I'll just say to myself, like, look, I'll have it on Friday.
Didn't Gandhi do that? I heard they said he used to sleep with young women in the same bed and just sleep to
did he?
strengthen his will. I heard that. Then I heard some other guy, a rabbi, told me, yeah, he was sleeping with all those women. That was just a story he was telling everybody.
I'm trying to,
which sounds way more plausible, right?
like,
I'm strengthening my willpower.
What are you doing? Strengthening my willpower. Gandhi.
You can't. Those. I have no idea.
Oh, Gandhi.
We're gonna get some hate mail on that.
All the Gandhi people out there.
Gandhi
lot. There's a huge overlap with our listeners as a Gandhi crowd. Yeah.
So channel factors is big. And
are you saying, was he also like that on his starvation diet? He was like, yeah, I'll take that Reese's peanut butter.
I don't know anything about the diet, but I just remember hearing that story.
His fast, it was like, yeah, people knew him. Were like, oh, he was eating.
Yeah, that makes no sense. If you want to be a celibate, or if you want to be, sexually exclusive to your spouse, sleeping with other young, attractive women in your bed, I don't think that's the way to go.
But if you are caught with someone in your bed, can you just be like, I'm strengthening? Oh, you got this all wrong. I'm making sure that my willpower is strengthened.
And then your wife goes, how's it going? Well, there's hit and miss. It's not all wins, honey.
Long term, though.
Long term, this is going to work out.
Long term, I'm getting there.
I have good days and I have bad days. But I can't make progress if I don't have the bad days as well. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
We give the best advice on this podcast.
So, engineer your environment. I mean, that's how creatures evolve anyways, in response to environment. So engineer your environment, engineer your social environment, which is what Power of the Tribe is all about, right?
Yeah. Find
your tribe, change your life, or change your tribe, whichever. I know you fly in the face of a lot of this, but
the other thing is that so I never ever, I don't know if I have an iron will or not, but all I know is that I never ever say I'm not going to eat this and then do. Like, it's impossible for me somehow. Like, do you know what I mean?
Please say that again, Dan.
I'll never say I'm not going to have cookies Monday through Thursday, and then I do. Like, then I eat some. Like, I never do that. The only way that it fails for me is when my brain starts making up excuses. Like
Yeah.
I'll just be like, like on Sunday night, be like, usually I do Monday through Thursday, but I've got all this leftover really good food and my weight's not bad for Sunday. And why don't I just do Tuesday through Thursday this week? And, like my brain starts
Yeah.
convincing me that
Yeah.
it's not breaking
Right.
you know what I mean? It starts going, okay, it's not like I shouldn't do this, but I can't help it. I'm going to have a cookie. It's more like, you know what? Why don't you just allow yourself this one day to do it? And then I talk myself into it. That's pretty rare, but that can happen. You know what I mean? Where your brain starts talking you into it.
Yeah. I think, but Dan, that happens with people every day.
Yeah.
You're just maybe losing one day a week. Most people are losing every day. It's tricky,
But there's two ways. Do you see
You're
what
high.
I mean?
But Dan, you're super high in conscientiousness, very low in neuroticism. So you're emotionally very stable and very conscientious. So that basically,
What do those things mean? Conscientious.
conscientious means orderly, attention to detail, follow through. You're the type of person that does what they say they're going to do. And neuroticism is emotional variability. So if somebody's very neurotic, then they're like, jiu-jitsu's my life. And then a week later, they're like, I'm out.
Yeah, right.
They're all over the place. That's probably mostly a product of their inherited personality. And you're lucky you have a personality that allows you to live amongst the double stuff and not have it affect you. I'm saying that the rest of us who want to eat healthy should sterilize their house, quarantine their house, and just have the healthy food that they want to eat in their house.
Right. Because it's so much harder to go to the store to buy something than to just open
that's it.
Right in
That's
reach.
one of those channel factors. I got to go out and get my car and go down the street, and that'll help you not eat the things,
Right.
So I think that's the way to go for most of us. Definitely.
Yeah, I think so too.
And these things so Dr. Doug Lisle talks about the pleasure trap. And essentially what it is that, we have evolved over how many years as a human animal eating certain foods. And mostly we're in conditions where food was relatively scarce. And now we're in a position where food is insanely abundant. And the type of food, high fat, high sugar, I mean, if you're back on Stone Age time, it's extremely rare. So we have a binge chip circuit in our head where if we come across food like that, we've evolved to eat all of it, like now.
Right.
And that's why when you eat something like that, you don't feel satisfied. You want to eat more because of that binge chip. So what happens is when you're eating that type of food all the time, it changes your taste buds. It changes your neural circuits. So that tastes great. And anything with a lower sugar content doesn't taste good. So they have these programs out there, Dan, where somebody will go and they'll do a water fast for maybe 10 days. So all they do is drink water for 10 days, no food. And by doing that, they reset their taste buds. So then when they come off of that and they eat a carrot or radish or something,
it's going to be delicious, I would guess.
Delicious, yeah.
Because you're starving.
Right, and they don't need a double stuff. And probably if they go to eat a double stuff, at first it would be too sweet that it wouldn't taste that great. But the taste buds and the nervous system can adapt pretty quickly, and before you know it, you can get back only enjoying the super processed food and not enjoying the natural food. So, yeah, that's interesting. That's another reason why you want to control your environment if you want to eat healthy. But maybe you don't want to eat healthy. Maybe you want to have a little pizza.
Another thing I've noticed that it applies to almost all hardship in life that we've talked about on and off on this podcast a bunch is just reframing things in your mind. So if it's the treadmill, it's off moments where I'm like, I'm suffering. And then I'll say to myself, like, am I suffering or am I just a little uncomfortable?
Right.
And then I can be like, I'm just a little uncomfortable. I'm not suffering.
Right.
And it helps.
Isn't that funny?
It works.
It's so funny.
It doesn't work completely, obviously. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, it still hurts, but, like, it helps a lot. And you used to say in jiu-jitsu it was being gassed, right? You were like, wasn't that it? You were like, don't say I'm a little winded or something. Was that
I'm winded. Yeah.
A little winded. I'm not gassed.
Yeah.
Like,
Or people would typically say, I'm tired. And I believe tired implies something that requires a long-term solution, like you got to go to bed for 8 hours. But if you say you're winded, that implies you need a momentary break to catch your breath, and then you can continue.
Yeah, or that panicky feeling of someone crushing you. I've done that in my mind too, where I'm like,
You feel like you're going to die.
I'm going to die, and just reframe it in your mind like, this is uncomfortable.
Right.
It's uncomfortable. You're all right.
Right.
You know, and you can calm down.
You could say, could I take this for an hour? Yeah, I actually probably could. So
Yeah.
what's the big deal? Yeah.
And then and then with food, it'll be like that. Like, that's an easy one. Everyone does it. Like, I am starving. And it's like, are you starving? Like, I'm not
Right.
starving. I'm a little hungry. That's all.
Dan, I've come to like feeling a little bit hungry sometimes. Do you ever do that?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
talked to you recently about this, not on the podcast, but I started seeing, like, when I had hunger pangs, I started picturing.
You texted me that,
Yeah.
Dan.
I started picturing in my head that was the feeling of, like, burning off fat. And I was
think
like,
you
so
said
it's good.
in the text, it's burning off disgusting flab. I think
Yeah,
is
yeah,
what you
right,
said.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I started picturing. It's like that hunger pang is disgusting flab burning away. So it's good. Like, it's a good thing to feel.
That's a good
You know what I
association.
mean? Like, good. Now finally I've got this feeling of that flab burning away. Good.
Yeah.
Let me keep this for a while. Because it'll burn the whole time. Like, the whole time I'm feeling this, it's burning. And it works again. You know, it's in your head. You're not like, I'm starving to death. You're like, I'm burning flab.
Well, I think all these feelings of pain and fear are your nervous system trying to give you some information. So it is probably open to interpretation as to what that information means. And as you say, when you can reframe it, you can probably help yourself get the results that you're looking for.
And with fat, your body's going to give you the wrong information. Your body doesn't want you burning off fat, you know, mostly. It's sort of like, get fat, you store it. It's good for the winter or whatever, however we're designed, you know. And so it'll start saying, hey, you need to eat way before you need to eat, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the way I've been seeing it. You know, you'll get these
Definitely.
little hunger, like, you should eat. You know, like, it's not true.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you have a lot of sugar. In
Sort
your
of like
diet.
being buried in jiu-jitsu under some heavy opponent. And it's like your body's like, your brain's like, you're going to die. You're like, calm down, brain.
It's funny, Dan. So I referenced this book before, this guy, Tom Bunn, who wrote he wrote a couple of books. One was about a fear of flying, how to get over that. And one was about just anxiety in general and panic. And he talks about that no plane has ever gone down due to turbulence. So in the history of aviation, no plane has ever been in a patch of turbulence, and that has
certainly
sent it
not a
down.
big one, not a jet, not a passenger.
I don't know. I'm keeping it simple and going with no plane has ever gone down. So I used to get a little nervous sometimes when there was a lot of turbulence. Now that I have that belief in my mind, it doesn't. The turbulence doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I have the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's also, like you can't help it. Like, you might get an adrenaline rush when it bounces.
If the bounce hits you when you're not ready or something, you're whoa, yeah.
But then I have the same thing. Like, it's not gonna. It does. If you're on a jet, it's just not gonna just crash from, you know.
Yeah, I have it in my mind because of this guy who was actually a pilot for many years. It's impossible for the plane to crash from this.
Right.
Impossible. So then it's like, oh, I don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people don't understand numbers like that. I had a friend that was too scared to get on a roller coaster. He was looking at it and he's like, it looks all rickety, and look here, and, you know, look at those. It's made of wood, and look at that. And who knows what kind of moron
Sounds
is expecting
reasonable.
it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all I know is it's running every 3 minutes for the last 40 years. Like, if I get on now, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the numbers. I don't care if it looks rickety.
Right.
I'm going by the numbers. It could look perfectly solid, and if they're like, you're the first one on, I'm like, well, now I'm uncomfortable. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
right. Yeah.
It's like, I need those numbers.
Probably some sweet spot of have it run like 3 years without incident.
Yeah, like, if it's just running and running and running and running, I'm like, it's just the numbers. Like, what are the odds something happens to me?
Right.
Even skydiving, when I went skydiving, I was like, well, how long has this place been open for? How long? No one's died. Why is it going to be me?
I think years ago I looked up the stats, and I think it's 1 out of 10,000 jumps is a fatality, maybe.
It's a little higher than I'd like to hear,
But I think when you really dig into the data, it's people that are doing extreme things.
Right,
you know.
right.
So I think if you did
just
that
what I'm
tandem
doing,
jumping, It's 1 in a million,
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
go wrong. Something
Probably,
really
yeah.
small. Yeah.
Probably there's like sprained knees and broken ankles, and that's probably
Oh, yeah.
rampant. But
People do that walking down the street, right?
But I'll
Yeah.
I'll take that chance. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to do it though, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I did it once. I'm done too.
Yeah.
I think I told you that my instructor was like, once you do it once, you are going to get hooked and you'll never want to stop.
Oh,
And
right.
I hit the ground and I'm like, I'm done. That's fun, but like, check.
Yeah.
I just did like, check mark. Like,
Yeah.
That's it. I'm good. It was fun, but I don't need to do this. Yeah,
So-
we're running late now.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. So
Let's do one of your summaries.
I'm going to do a summary right now.
Perfect.
So this is going to be great for our listeners because this is simple to the point. So engineer your social environment to get the results you want. If you want to eat healthier, hang out with healthier eating people. If you want to exercise more, hang out with people who exercise. That's simple enough. And also engineer your environment. Think about those channel factors. If you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, just make it physically difficult to do the bad habit. Quarantine your house with food. You don't have to go crazy. I think if you changed it at all, it would help you.
Yeah. There's a million things. Remember, Pedro was in here on episode 1 or whatever it was, and he said he bought small plates.
Smaller plates. Yeah.
Smaller plates, and so it's hard to load it up.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
it. I guess that would be one of those channel
Yeah.
factors. I think if somebody did those two things, they couldn't help but have a positive result from
Yeah.
it. And then the other thing that came up, Dan, you mentioned, is reframing the meaning of maybe some of your pain or suffering or these so-called negative feelings you're having.
Right.
Your hunger pain is your disgusting flab burning off your body. Yeah. Air turbulence cannot take a plane down. So I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I think that's
Or
good.
being crushed in jiu-jitsu, you're like, or
I'm
being
gonna survive.
exhausted, you're like, I'm tired, I'm all right though. You know.
I'm winded.
Yeah, I'm winded.
I'm winded. Excellent. All right, man. Thanks to all our listeners who mentioned they were. So Tin is listening, even though he thinks I'm a phony. I'll have to have.
No,
a
we just
talk
thought you
with
were
him.
unlikable.
Thought it's. Oh, all right. That's much better.
You're just uncharismatic.
Who else mentioned the John Burke? Of course, super fan, probably number one super fan. He always gives me great feedback about the podcast. Thank you, John. Alex Rose mentioned the podcast, so I was happy about that. He congratulated me on my tournament victories, and everyone else, please share it. So I think, Dan, even more important than liking the podcast or hitting like on Facebook is sharing it, and we get a lot of good guys that share it. Rob Curran is
Rob Curran's
he
up
shares
there.
it.
Up
Dennis
there as
Medina
number one
shares
fan.
it.
Rob Curran's a big shares it almost every
Yeah.
week, and
Yeah.
I presumably listens.
So I would encourage you, don't even listen to it. Just share it. Encourage everyone just to share it. Let's get this thing viral. And we'll talk to you next week.